Are you ready to unlock your full potential and maximize your productivity? Look no further than Productivity Smarts, the ultimate audio podcast hosted by renowned productivity expert Gerald J. Leonard. In every episode, Gerald shares captivating stories, invaluable tips, and cutting-edge strategies that will transform the way you approach productivity. Whether you're looking to reduce stress, overcome overwhelm, or simply get more done in less time, Productivity Smarts has got you covered. But that's not all. You'll also gain inspiration from real-life success stories of individuals who have achieved greatness through productivity. Plus, you'll learn the latest tools, techniques, and habits that will help you achieve a new level of happiness and fulfillment in your personal and professional life. So why wait? Join us every week as we delve into the exciting world of productivity and help you unleash your full potential. Get ready to take your productivity to the next level with Productivity Smarts. As a productivity expert and host of the Productivity Smarts podcast, Gerald J. Leonard has been a proud supporter of Kiva since 2011. Kiva is a non-profit organization that helps entrepreneurs in third world countries access the capital they need to start or grow their businesses. By making a small loan through Kiva, you can help these entrepreneurs achieve their dreams, support their families, and contribute to their local economies. And with a repayment rate of over 96%, your loan can be re-lent to another entrepreneur once it's repaid, creating a ripple effect of positive change. So if you're looking for a meaningful way to make a difference in the world, consider making a loan through Kiva. With loans as small as $25, anyone can be a micro-lender and help change lives. Visit kiva.org to learn more and start lending today.
Well, today I am speaking with Dr. Kim Nugent. She is the author of a book called From Prison to Possibilities, Paving Your Path, a transformative guide designed to reduce recidivism and empower returning citizens through structured mentoring and reintegration. Her peer-led mentorship model is revolutionizing the rehabilitation industry and bringing real productivity and purpose to lives post-incarceration. Dr. Nugent, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for asking.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I always ask a couple of questions to get started to kind of, just kind of level set around music. It's just who I am. And so my first question is always, what is your favorite style of music?
I really like a lot, but the first thing would be, quite frankly, Latin. Anything salsa related, bachata, anything like that. Even just playing guitar without song, without any
vocals.
Exactly. My second would be Christian classical.
Okay.
And contemporary. So those would be the two main things. I sometimes listen to country western, but those would be my favorite.
Excellent. Now, do you have a favorite piece or a favorite artist?
That would be really hard to say. So no, because there's so many new artists coming on the scene all of the time. But I like people who've been around a really long time. Anything that's really upbeat, high energy, and happy, I'm good.
Yes. Now I can tell you really like salsa or Latin music because you said salsa and bachata, and most people have no idea what that is. But it's a certain style of Latin music that's really, really cool, and a certain way you dance to it. So it gives me a little bit of insight into who you are.
I love all things Latin, for sure.
Excellent, excellent. Well, listen, you have an amazing background. You have a PhD. You have 3 masters. You are executive coach from Marshall Goldsmith. You have gone from corporate America to now mentoring and developing programs to help people who are incarcerated go from prison to possibilities. That is an amazing leap. Just years of study for one, but it's an amazing leap. But it also says that you have a heart for helping people who are in very difficult situations. And so can you tell us a little bit about what has made you so successful and has driven you towards this, I would say, purpose-filled career?
for sure it's purpose filled, probably the most rewarding work I've ever done, but I want to go back. So it may seem like a leap, but I don't really see it that way. For me, it's just been a guided path. And let me say more about that. So I started in hospitality first. Reason that's important is everything is around service. So service leadership and really thinking about the other person first before you ever think about yourself. So that's sort of a big principle. The second would be when I went into higher education, I definitely believe education, whether that's formal education or not formal education, that there's something to be gained from that, and it widens up the world to you in ways that you never saw possible. And like I said, it doesn't have to be formal education. You might think from my background it does. It doesn't. I am definitely a lifelong learner, if you can't tell already. And I'm constantly listening to podcasts, reading books, listening to Audible. I have a long commute every single day, and I don't know what I do without Audible for sure. But that is something. But I think the other thing is that when I was at the university in particular, I saw students who didn't always make it, and you can't predict that. And, so that was one thing. And I know the impact of having a mentor to begin with personally. I've had several. And so I know the importance of that. And I think that your audience would be, really interested, particularly if they're millennials or Gen Zs, is that, the things they're looking for is very different than the way things used to be. But I think we have to be sensitive to that. And one of those is that they really are a demand, and I use the word carefully, demand for either coaching or mentorship. And so really having someone to help guide them along the path is really important. So I'm known as a mentorship expert in a variety of different industries. So for me, it wasn't a big leap because first of all, I believe in second chances. I believe in service. I believe in education. And I also believe that when you know better, you do better. Now, what the leap was it wasn't a field I knew anything about. So it took 5 years of super intensive research before I wrote my first word.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Was there someone that came and said, hey, I hear what you're doing and it's amazing, but I have this challenge, or I have this relative, or I have this situation, and I believe you can make a difference there as well? How did the connect the dots for us?
You must have peeked into my life. That's almost exactly what happened. So I received a phone call from a gentleman. His name's Bill DeBarba in Arizona. Did not know the man. He had written a book, but he was doing volunteer work in prisons, doing meditation work. And he saw the difference it was making. He knew I was a mentorship expert. And he said, hey, Kim, have you ever seen a book around prison mentorship or peer mentorship? And I said, no, I haven't. I hadn't seen anything. I've seen a lot of stories about men who have gotten out and have told their personal story, which is very transformative, but nothing like that. So that was sort of his first request. And I didn't know him. And I hung up the phone. And I'll be honest, Gerald, when I hung up the phone after I said, yes, I would do that, I thought, what the heck did I say yes to? But, one of the things that I think about, if I look back over my life, I look at moments when, and in a moment, I said yes to something and doors opened that I never thought were possible. So really being present and really listening to what somebody is saying. And I would say that if I've been successful in my career, and I believe that I have, that is whenever someone presents a problem to me, I never hear it as a problem.
You see it as an opportunity.
Always, 100%. And I just get to work on it because it's intriguing to me. And I am really pleased, with, I will say, with the incarcerated men. I'm working with men predominantly in Florida, Texas, and Mississippi. But the amount of effort that they're putting in, and I think people would be astounded to see the untapped talent that is actually inside these prison walls. The leadership skills, graphic design, drawing, writing, you name it. I mean, they're amazing. And if you spend any time with them at all, you'll find out that they are amazing. It's just redirecting that amazingness into something positive so that when they are getting out, that they can have a life they deserve.
Right. I want to come back to something that you said, which was you said yes to the opportunity, right? And then you said, once you said yes and started working on it, doors opened up that you never thought would happen. And I think that's a really good lesson for anyone who's listening, that many times a problem is an opportunity in disguise. And when we say yes to solving it and we commit ourselves, then it's like the universe, God, however you want to say it. I tend to say God myself, but however you want to say it, begins to open doors that you didn't even know were there, that needed to be open to make it possible. But you have to commit first. You have to make that commitment to whatever it is that you're dealing with first. And then once you make that commitment, the doors and opportunities and resources and everything else that you need to be successful will be brought to you. I really believe that.
100%. And I think if people think about their own lives, when they have made that commitment to something that was important to them,
Right.
everything sort of aligned, just as you said. And I do believe that God is a big part of that for myself, but everything aligns and then everything kind of gets out of the way. It doesn't mean you don't have things that come up,
Right.
certainly,
Right.
but you've made that commitment. So you're absolutely going to see it all the way through for sure. And that's a big lesson. I will say one thing, you didn't ask me, but I have to say, so everything I said is true about saying yes and everything else. But there's another side of the yes. There's the no, right?
Okay.
And so the no goes like this. So I had an opportunity. I was actually in a particular prison visiting. I was trying to get information. I was going to also be teaching a career development class for the ladies that were incarcerated. And there was a gentleman who came through and he was taking wardens on a tour through this particular prison. So I happened to get invited to a meeting that they were all sitting in. I didn't know anyone. I was just sitting there I was just visiting, and that was
Right.
my introduction. I was visiting. Long story short is he was not happy to know that I was writing a book, quite upset, actually. He said I couldn't talk to anybody, couldn't quote anybody, do anything else. And I said, that's fine. I wasn't thinking about his perspective and he didn't know anything about me. But anyway,
Right.
we ended up talking. That was on a Friday. On that following Monday, he said all the things that was a no, 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 no. And I said, okay, which is always a good response. And then I said, would you be open to a curriculum? And he said, yes. So I said, okay, great. And that was the end of that. And so 6 months later, when I had the book completed, I called him and said, I'd like to send you a copy. And he said, great, I'll read it over the holidays. He read it. And after that, it was yes, 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 yes. So, also when I hear no, I don't hear it as no. It may
Right.
be not now, not the right thing, not the way I present it, whatever it is.
Right.
And so I think, I think that's important for your audience to know there's opportunities everywhere. Even in a no, there's an opportunity. So what was wrong with what I said or what I was presenting, or was it the wrong time, wrong event, whatever it happens to
Right.
be?
And the person who said no could just be in a really different situation or looking at it very differently. They don't understand the full picture of what you're bringing to the table. But then you position it as, well, would you accept it as a curriculum, not a book, quote unquote? But then when you send them the curriculum, which is a book, it's like, wow, this is really, really helpful. And I can, as I went through the book myself, I was like, this is really, really helpful. So let me ask you this question about the book, From Prison to Possibility, which it's an amazing title because it really draws up two, dichotomic images, if you will, of someone in prison, but yet seeing the pictures of possibilities that is before them. And I think it's a beautiful picture. What role does structure and planning play in restoring a productive life post-incarceration? And how does your book help with that?
So let me take 2 steps backwards so that I can answer that question. So the first thing I would say is that and we'll get outside of prison for just a minute, because
Sure.
prison doesn't have to mean you're behind bars. You could be in prison mentally
A lot of
without
people
thinking
are.
you're at stop, right? So
Exactly.
this applies for everybody. That's the first thing. But there are a lot of schools around the country or organizations that want to have a mentorship program, and it is a great idea. And then they put it together, a meet and greet, and they bring these people together, and it's, oh, yes. And then about, I would say 2 sessions in, maybe 3 if they're lucky, everything kind of falls apart.
Yeah.
There's no structure to it, to your
Right.
point.
Right.
So that's the first thing. So you really have to have structure. The second thing is you're not automatically, a mentor, that I go in and do a train the trainer program. It takes approximately 3 days. I work directly with the inmates, teaching them how to mentor, because when they have small groups and they'll have 4 people assigned to them, what'll happen is these people are different backgrounds, different experiences, different everything. Now they, as a mentor, are going to have to be with that, however it is or however it isn't, with
Right.
no judgment,
Right.
and be able to ask questions to pull out of them kind of what they are thinking. And that's where a mentor can excel. And then the mentees are going to learn from the mentors, but the mentors learn as much from the mentees. So it is a very structured program. It's 6 months minimum. Right. There's a few weeks in preparation of getting to know the mentees and that kind of thing. And then, of course, post. So there are some prisons across the country that have very good reentry programs.
Okay.
And I think hats off to them. However, mine is a little bit different. So it's not just reentry, because it's kind of like when students come to university and they want to get a degree and they want to walk across the stage.
Right.
That doesn't happen like the next day. It takes 4+ years in most cases, sometimes 5 or more, before they have everything they need to be able to have earned that credential and be able to stand behind that education. It is the same thing from my perspective to be productive when you leave. So I am working with, or the mentors are working with, over this 6-month period, 2 things. They're working on soft skills, employability skills, and a robust career plan when they leave. Because if I don't change my behavior, if I don't change my attitude, my communication, my decision-making, I could go on, it's A to Z, but the 26 topics. So people might be listening like, well, this doesn't really apply to me, but 50% of Americans, families, have someone incarcerated or someone who has been in prison. And even if you don't, if that never touches you, we all have blind spots.
Correct.
And the whole point of this is through a mentor and questioning in the curriculum, you can uncover those blind spots. So if you want something for yourself in your career or in your business and you seem to not getting traction, this is an opportunity to sort of peek inside you with some help from a mentor to be able to uncover that so you can excel.
Correct. You know, one of the things that, and I share this a lot in the podcast, and this comes back to what you just shared there, was the importance of mentorship. As a musician, as a kid, one of the things there were 3 things I learned. 1, you have to practice. You got to work on your skills. 2, you need a coach, trainer, mentor, someone who plays way better than you do, who can guide you through that process. And then you also need a band. And what you're explaining to me is you're giving them structure or things to practice. You're giving them a mentor, coach, person they can work with, but you're also giving them a peer group, a band, where they have other people who are, you know, at that point of 6 months to a year before they are released, that they can walk this walk together with and get support. And now the question I have for you is, why do you believe it's the 6-month time period is critical for productivity and success for the folks that are in this program?
So at a minimum, 6 months, typically it's longer. So at a minimum. And the reason I say that is from a coaching perspective, and you know, I'm a coach, which is it takes at least 6 months to change a behavior.
Gotcha.
So it might be easy to change a behavior, but let's just say, let's play that out, and I'll be generous and say maybe it only takes 2 or 3 months because you're a superstar. Great. Here's what takes longer. And Marshall Goldsmith will actually say this: to change the perceptions of the people around you takes much longer.
Yes.
So that's why you want these people to be able to give you feedback. You know, one of the first exercises, so what happens each week is they meet weekly. They have an article they have to read. They have questions they have to fill out before they come to that meeting to be prepared, because it's not just a free-for-all or just open discussion.
Right. It's a guided process, structured and guided process.
And the mentor has questions that they're going to be asking. Now, just because they have a formalized meeting, they're together all the time, so they can continue that conversation all week long.
Right.
What I challenge them to do it's really week 1, but it's really week 3. So A is for attitude.
Yep.
So you may think, or I may think, man, I have a great attitude. And I'll say, let's check that out. So go ahead and you're going to interview the warden or a teacher or a principal, the chaplain, whoever is around, a correctional officer. But if you are really courageous, you'll accept this next challenge is call home. And if you call home, they're going to tell you about your attitude.
Yeah.
And so, or you might have a buddy who says, oh my gosh, you're really great. That's not helpful. So if I had an area to work on with regards to my attitude, can you give me some feedback about that? And the next thing that all of us, where Marshall Goldsmith coaches are trained, is the next thing you say to anybody is thank you. It is not an argument. It's not a debate.
Right.
Thank you for the gift of your feedback.
Exactly. I was looking at, in the book, you have a quote from Simon Sinek, and it's, a mentor is not someone who walks ahead of us to show us how they do it. A mentor is someone who walks alongside us so that we can do it.
100%. And, what's really important is in prisons, mentors and mentees, one person does not have any power control over the other.
Right.
So it is a collective. And the reason that's important is exactly from that quote from Simon Sinek. But at the end of this culmination, we actually have a formalized graduation.
Okay.
What is so amazing to me and rewarding and just inspiring is we generally have 2 mentors and 2 mentees talk about their experience as part of the graduation. And remember, I've met them when they first start the program. They don't really know what they're going through.
Right.
On the other side of them, to stand up in front of many people, to be able to speak about the experience and how it's really changed them or their family conversations is really inspiring. But I want to talk about one other thing you said so that people don't have a misunderstanding. I work in maximum security prisons.
Wow. Okay.
Number 1. Number 2, some of these inmates will never leave the prison, and they are welcome in my program if they want to be in the program.
Right.
The reason that's important is I don't do anything. I mean, they can come regardless of what their sentence is, whatever I don't ask about that. It's a desire to learn and grow. So you might ask yourself, why would a guy who has a life sentence want to be in the program? Well, the answer is, once they see what the program is, it gives them a sense of purpose and a reason to get out of bed in the morning and to give back to somebody else. Right. And I don't care who you are. It is so rewarding in your own personal life to give to somebody else, to be able to make a difference. That's why some of them do it.
It's interesting because I'm actually doing some brain study work myself right now, and a couple of things that you talked about in your program, which is that collective togetherness, the fact that you give them assignments and they have things to read, they have questions to answer, the mentor has questions, so they're all kind of learning. But what's interesting about that is from a neurological standpoint, it creates something called brain synchrony, because they're all in this together and they're kind of going down this direction. And when you have brain synchrony, it gives the brain the ability to start transforming. So they come out of this environment changed. It really creates like physical neuronal network change in how their brains work and how they think and the emotions, because it also that bonding together is oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin. It's all the bonding neurochemicals to where they now feel like they have, like you said, I have an emotional stake in this, and I'm now, even if I'm not getting out because I'm in a life sentence, I still have something to give. And I think that's really important for those of us who may be in prison, but not physically. And I say that to say, if you feel like you're just stuck, like, maybe you were just let go from a job, or you feel like AI just replaced you, or something happened, in your life where you're going through something and you feel like you're in that prison, this is a great way to get yourself out of that environment. It's one, education, it's bonding, because we only change because of 2 things: the books and materials that we read and the people that we meet, right? And so if we are around great material that's encouraging us, if we're around people who are mentoring and helping us to grow, we're going to change and we're going to have a different perspective. Now, you also, in this, you talk about peer-led mentorship, which is different than just the mentor-mentee concept. This is peer-led, where at the, just kind of like at the ABC level, they're mentoring each other. Can you talk about that a little bit more? And you also have like assessments in your book around, are you ready to be mentored? I thought that was a really cool topic as well. So can you talk about that a little bit more?
Sure. So I'll start with the second thing, which is really about, are you ready to be mentored, or are you ready to be a mentor? I'll start from that, which is, any coach knows that we only take on clients who are coachable. So meaning your willingness to go through that. And so you have to say yes to that. And so one of the things, when I first start the program, I go through the trainer program on the day one. I always say, thanks for being here. Really, I'm excited about the opportunity. They're going to learn more. They don't really know what they've signed up for. And I'll say, I want to tell you now, because when we end, I'm going to ask you a question. And the answer is either yes or no. So the question is going to be, do you want to be a mentor in this program? If you say yes, great. glad to have you. If you say no, we part friends. Thanks for being with me for the last 2.5 days. And we part friends, no problem at all. What I don't want you to be is a maybe, because these guys are relying on you. And I can't have you decide 5 weeks in, this is not for you.
Right.
That's number one. Number two, the other thing that we do is I hold them, or we hold them, the wardens hold them, the programming wardens hold them to a higher standard. So one, people now know, because we've done enough work, that people in the prison, the guards, know these guys are in this program.
Yeah.
So they're already looking to see if they're holding themselves to a higher standard, getting in, out, not causing problems and all of that.
Sure.
And I'm so proud of them. I can give you so many different examples of things that have occurred. Some of the inmates have de-escalated situations with staff. That's one thing. Second thing is that of these prisons where they're going through my program, and the guys, meaning mentors and mentees who go through the program and complete the program, we have had zero, and I want to say zero, rule violations in all of those prisons with that population or populations. So in some places, I've been back with 6 cohorts. In other places, we've done a couple of cohorts. But the reason that's important is because when you have zero rule violations, it's safer for the staff, and we're understaffed in the United States, and it's safer for the inmates. So it's a win-win for everybody. And that's what's important to me, is I want it to be a safe environment, but I want people having conversations they would never have conversations about. I'm telling you, when they call home each week, because they're, talking about what they've learned in class, that's changing a family conversation. When they're learning, they become the teacher over the phone, if you will.
Right.
And I always ask them, so what topic made the biggest difference? So with each person, it's going to be different.
Right.
But a couple of high topics that have made, obviously, attitude, behavior, and communication, decision-making, those are generally, but usually the one thing that a majority of people say is I for integrity. They're so surprised by the definition, how I outline or give specific examples of what integrity is or what it isn't, and they are so surprised. And so it gets them thinking about, wow, I never really lived my life that way.
Right.
And what if I did?
Right. Right. Now, I think it's really interesting because, as I'm thinking about the program being 6 months, 26 weeks, and you have the alphabet is basically, you kind of have it laid out with each letter. I really like the way you laid the book out. And each one of those parts of the alphabet is a topic, probably as an article, questions around, integrity, decision-making, attitude, and so on that you have there. Now, in one of the areas in your book, you talked about post-traumatic stress, right? Because for someone to be in that situation, things have gone bad, right? Because now they're incarcerated, and now they're around people who probably are much worse or the same as they are. And so they've gone from, the frying pan to the fire, right?
100%.
So what are some productivity habits or mind shifts that you've seen make the biggest difference to create that zero issue where, folks are not getting back into major issues, things are changing, it's transforming the prison, and it's also preparing them for reentry into society? What do you think some of the biggest shifts that have happened for them?
I would say it would first start with attitude, because, a lot of us are we can't see our blind spots. I'll put it that way. And so we do think maybe we have a good attitude, but we can probably identify, this guy makes me mad, or this situation makes me mad, or something else. But when you start to step back, yes, actually more things probably upset you than you're really willing to admit. And the other thing is that you have a choice about how to respond. So they've never had strategies to say, hey, take a breath, count to 10, do something else before you say that next thing.
Right.
And so kind of thinking through that would be one thing. I think another one is emotional intelligence for them to really, and I will say most of the guys in particular, they are excellent when it comes to social awareness. Where they're not excellent is self-management.
Yes.
And, but that's okay. Sense. So there are strategies. So we just don't leave them we don't do just an assessment. And oh, by the way, what are the strategies that you can start to employ that are going to have you become stronger overall as you go through it. But, you said PTSD, and I want to say something about that.
Yeah.
Unless you've actually been in a prison, either to visit or you have a family member or you've personally been in prison, you have no idea what it's like. You have some story that you've watched on TV that you think it's that way, and it's not.
Yeah.
And I don't care how strong the person is, there is nothing like once you get processed and you are transported to that prison and you basically everything's taken away and they close that gate and you can hear it.
Yeah.
There is nothing like it because there is nothing left. When you think about, you have no freedom whatsoever.
Right.
And then what that can do to your own mindset. So we talk about mindset. That's another big one about, do I want to have a fixed mindset? Well, do I want to continue to be angry? Do I want to have a growth mindset?
Right.
But I believe that everyone in prison, to a certain degree, some more so than others, suffer from some type of PTSD.
Sure.
And the lighting, the noise, all of it, it's just not how life really is on the outside. And so kind of having to navigate that, because whenever they come home, that's the other thing is that when they come home, they probably are going to be triggered by some things that they're not expecting.
Yeah.
Just getting back into if they go back home, getting back in the bed, being back with family members, having conversations, a color, a smell, a light, a something, all of a sudden that can be a trigger. So what are the strategies that when I get triggered, I'm just not going to go off? And those are the things that we're going to work on.
And again, I can see how this book, although, you've written it and designed it for people who are incarcerated, could be leveraged quite a bit in companies and different organizations, because again, we all have to some extent our own little prison of something that we're working on and we're trying to get out of. And I just think there's a lot of strategies, there's a lot of questionings, there's a lot of assessments, there's a lot of insight. I love the way you have the alphabet and all the different phrases. And one of them that you talk about is goal setting. And so, I thought about that. And, you have a quote in here in the book that says, according to Inc. magazine, you are 42% more likely to achieve your goals if you write them down. Writing down your goals forces you to get clear about exactly what you want and can motivate you to complete it. You wake up with your goal, you visualize them, you review them daily, and if you can picture them, you are more likely to achieve your goals. So as we were talking, I was thinking about this question I have, which is around how do you measure success for individuals from a productivity standpoint? But I was even thinking, as you were talking, where some of the mentors may be lifers, right? And how do they go about setting goals if you are a lifer and you're not getting out, and it has to be an act of Congress, an act of God for you to even be considered, but the program is changing their mindset. So, can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of things come to mind. So the first thing is that I always put myself in somebody's position. So I was thinking, I'm so grateful to the mentors and the effort that they're putting in. They don't have to. This is really out of the goodness of their heart, and they're putting in a lot of work and everything else. And there's an infrastructure and they have their own group meetings. But one of the things I was thinking about is that if I got finished with this program, then what about me? So I can't have that, so I'm thinking what's next for them. So what I do is I go back in, and if they choose, and it's a choice,
right,
the mentors that want to continue to work on the program, then what I spend special time with them and I teach them elevated coaching skills. And they were not going to become a coach, but one day they may, but that's not my background to be able to do that. On the other hand, it's really interesting. And then I do some heavy work around assumptions that they may bring into a situation that we test those. We kind of work through that methodology. And then once they become a coach, they take some of the pressure off the staff because they're going to kind of shepherd the whole thing. They still have no power over anybody, but because they've already done it once, It's a big deal. Well, depends on how many times I've gone back to a particular prison, but generally there's always at least one person, if not more, that's special. And what I mean is there's something about them that gives me the feeling that they could be me, meaning they could be the facilitator and I could move myself out of the way. And that is my model going forward, which is I have identified people who I want them to be me, because the truth of the matter is I can do all of this. I can have the book, the curriculum, I can do the train the trainer program, but it's their program.
Right.
And when it's somebody, that is living shared experience, you said it before, what the research actually says is when peer-led mentorship programs have such a high impact in terms of reducing, some studies say up to 40% recidivism just because of shared experiences.
Right.
So again, it's their program, they make it, and there are some creative things that they've done. Every prison's different. Their ideas, one group has created their own bylaws, one has special jackets and badges. They have events that they have done, but the excitement. So here it is, my program is good, but it's not the end all be all. And I know that. So if the program has other programs, whether it is some kind of spiritual transformation, whether it's GED, certifications, community college, all kinds of programs today, depending on the prison. Some have programming, it's excellent, and some don't, but it excites them about learning. I have one state jail that was so excited about personal development and growth that they asked, hey, can we have more books to really take a deeper dive on all these 26 topics? Another group said, hey, we have a law library. Can we have a self-development section just so we can continue to expand what we're working on? We're excited about that. I mean, that's amazing.
So the goal or the success becomes the self-fulfillment of, identifying your purpose. And really, even though let's say they're a lifer and they're incarcerated, they're really no longer incarcerated. Physically they're confined, but mentally, now they have access to books. They are able to read, they're able to communicate, they're able to self-regulate. It's transforming who they are and what's possible. And who knows, they may transform to the point where they're able to, and they may never come out, but they're able to have such an impact on others that they see that, this was my purpose. This thing happened to me and I ended up here, but I look at what I've learned and what I've done, and now I'm able to transform a ton of other people. Now, I have one other thing I want to talk to you about here. But I have a couple of quotes that come from your book that I thought, okay, I guess got to share these because I thought they were really cool. One was T.S. Eliot, "Every moment is a fresh beginning." Albert Einstein, "In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity." And Eleanor Roosevelt, "Remember, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent." I thought that's very powerful. Now, what advice would you give someone trying to transform their own life? And maybe they're not in prison, but they feel like there's a prison that they're in, if you know what I mean.
I do, 100%.
Where they can help themselves get out of a difficult situation or transition or life circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
What would be advice?
So the first thing is that I feel so fortunate to do the work I'm doing, because let me just give you, these people have given me a perspective that can never be taken away. Sure. And I appreciate my life. I appreciate what they're doing. But when I come back to work, if you will, and I hear some of the normal conversations that happen at work and some of the things that people talk about and they get upset about, they are so small in comparison. So I am so grateful. And I can actually see that so clearer than I've ever seen it before.
Right.
And that's one thing. And I think the other thing is that regardless, let's talk about people outside of prison, which is, for many people, their mind is imprisoned.
Yes.
And they have put the stops on. So I love the fact that you're studying neuroscience and some other things now, because there's so much more today that we've learned. And really the opportunity, whether you want to use mindset as growth or fixed, or you want to use expansive thinking versus constrictive thinking. Henry Ford has a quote that says, if you think you can or you think you can't, that's it, right? Exactly. And I think that we have all done that. But for your audience, maybe Prison to Possibilities is not the book for them, but I do have a book for someone who is working and who really feels like, what, this isn't it. And here's what I see more that happens, Gerald. And we have lots of examples, but this one is pretty normal. So somebody's in the workforce.
Yep.
They apply for a promotion. They don't get it.
Right.
And then what happens is, first it is the mindset, which is, Then it's the self-talk, and the self-talk is these people don't get me. It's too political. They don't see my value. I don't even know why I'm here. Like all of that. And then how things go is you have a thought, then you have a feeling, then you have an action, then you have the result.
Right.
So now I have all these feelings going on, and now my actions are going to reflect that, you know what, I'm not giving as much at work as I used to because I'm not excited. But the truth of the matter is there's two things that I think are important. Number one is if you go for that promotion, you wanted something, you wanted to grow your career.
Right.
I really think it's important employers give feedback to those candidates to say, you know, you did really well here, but this is an area you need to work on so that they can go to work on something and they have something to be able to invest in themselves so that next time there is something that they want to apply for, they can get that.
Right.
The other thing I think, though, is that it's a mathematical equation sometimes, meaning there's one position and there may be 4 people internally and 7 people externally, but you don't know that.
Right.
You only know you.
Right.
And so when we get so inward focused, we're not really paying attention to some other things. So I have a book called Promotion Protocol, Unlock the Secrets to Promotability and Career Success. It's worked in many, many industries for people who feel invisible and are not seen at work. And it's with the help of a mentor. I always have a mentor, but it's different. The topics are different but it's A to Z. I really think 6 months in terms of behavior change is critical, but they go through that. And I can tell you, people are always surprised by how they change at the end of this, things they never thought about. And when you get a mentor to help you kind of navigate that from their experience, and then you get to talk to them about your experience, it's a beautiful thing that comes together.
That's amazing. So I have a proposition for you.
Sure.
I'd like to have you come back and let's talk about the next book.
Okay. Yes, I would love to. You know, somebody asked me the other day, you know, what's your favorite book? And I said, the one I haven't written yet.
But I like the topic of the career possibilities from A to Z, because I love the way you wrote this one, from prison to possibilities with the A to Z. And so I'm really interested in having you come back and us talk about that book as well, because I think that will take it even further with what people can learn, because I'm all about giving people tools, resources, books, concepts, insights that are really going to transform their life and change their perspective. Because like you said, once your mind has been changed and adjusted, you can never go back to the little life that you were living if you've seen the mountaintop, or if you've gone to Europe, or if you stood in front of the Eiffel Tower or something. You can never go back to just like, oh, well, it's just me. No, now you have a bigger purpose and something to give. Dr. Kim, if people want to learn more about you, connect with you, where can they go?
My website, which is www.drdnugentspeaks.com.
Okay.
Probably the easiest place to go and find out more information. I have everything there.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, this has been a pleasure speaking with you. I've learned a ton and amazing insights. And I love the quotes that you have in the book. And that's why I wanted to share some of them that really spoke to me as I was going through the material. And I just want to thank you for being a guest on the Productivity Smarts podcast.
I appreciate the invitation.
If you're enjoying the content and finding it valuable, we would appreciate it if you could take a moment and leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us and helps us reach a wider audience. If you leave us a 5-star review, it would mean the world to us. Not only does it help us improve the podcast, but it also helps us attract more sponsors and grow our community. Thank you again for your support and for listening to the Productivity Smarts podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to Productivity Smarts, where we help you achieve your goals and live your best life. We hope you've gained valuable insights and actionable strategies to boost your productivity and increase your happiness and fulfillment. Remember to apply what you've learned and keep striving towards your goals. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our podcast for more inspiring episodes and expert advice from our host, Gerald J. Leonard. Until next time, keep pushing forward and unleashing your productivity smarts.